Hey, Alabama. Nick Saban reveals the stupidest coaching decision he ever made. Did you see that? Let's get to the news about Alabama. Nick Saban is no longer on the sidelines coaching Alabama, but he remains a figure who shapes how the Crimson Tide thinks, acts, and competes. And when a coach of his stature reveals what he considers to be his stupidest decision, the entire football world stops to listen, especially in Tuscaloosa, where his every word echoes in the locker room, in the hallways of the training complex, and even in the mind of Kalen DeBoer, who now carries the mission of continuing the legacy. The story came to light when Saban, now an analyst for ESPN's College Game Day, recalled a moment that says much more about leadership than about mistakes. He went back to 2001 when he was still coaching LSU, facing Tennessee in the SEC championship game. That day, trailing 17-3, he decided to attempt a fourth down for just 1 yard, right on his own 22-yard line. A choice he, at the time, considered reckless. He was stopped by John Henderson. Turnover on downs, pressure, high risk. For any coach, a move like that sticks in the memory like a scar. But the story didn't end with a failure. LSU came back. LSU won. LSU left that field with a final score of 31-20. And when Saban breathed a sigh of relief after the celebration, he realized something that changed how he approached the game. It wasn't just a technical decision, it was a message. In the locker room, he heard from the players themselves that moment, that supposedly stupid decision, was interpreted as confidence. "Coach, when you risked it on fourth down, we thought you really believed we could win," they said. And from there, they played like a team that doesn't accept imposed destiny. The mistake that became fuel. The failure that became belief. For a coach who built Alabama on competitiveness, consistency, and self-confidence, the account sounds like an identity manual. Saban explained that it's no use reinventing the team in big games. It's not about creating something new, but rather reinforcing what already works, insisting on what gives the squad confidence. He said it simply, but the weight is immense. Don't change too much, don't invent, don't take the team away from what you believe is enough to win. Aggressiveness with purpose, that's the essence. Today, the one wearing the Alabama cap and headset is Kalen DeBoer, a football man who understands the weight of following a legacy and, at the same time, needs to imprint his own personality. Saban's story serves as a mirror for the present of the Crimson Tide, a silent message for the new Alabama that is being built under DeBoer. Courage is not recklessness. Risk is not chaos. It's necessary to trust in the work, in the identity, in a jersey that carries decades of history. The Alabama of today grows looking to the future, but never forgetting the philosophy that put it on top. If there's a lesson in Saban's stupidest mistake, it's simple, direct, and alive. Believing in your own team changes games. It changes seasons. It changes entire programs. And when Alabama believes, the whole country feels it. The Tide continues, older in its memory, younger in its ambition, once again ready to win. Because, as Saban proved that day, confidence is what sustains greatness, even when it's born from a decision that seemed completely senseless. Kiffin has probably already chosen his destination or not. I was reading this article about it, but what caught my attention was the continued influence of former coach Saban. Let's analyze this. The saga surrounding the future of Lane Kiffin, the coach who has put Ole Miss on the college football map like never before, is one of those stories that mixes emotion, strategy, and sports politics. And, inevitably, wherever the conversation about college coaches takes place, the name Nick Saban emerges as a silent but powerful force. Even outside the lines, Saban's legacy continues to be a kind of compass for those navigating the turbulent waters of college football. In the current case, his invisible finger seems to be pointing LSU in Kiffin's direction. Alabama isn't directly involved in this dance between LSU, Ole Miss, and the Florida Gators for Kiffin's signature, but Saban's influence is impossible to ignore. He not only recommended Kiffin for the job in Baton Rouge, but also offered practical advice based on his own transition experience, something few coaches in the country can match in terms of depth and impact. When Saban speaks, the ears of the college sports world automatically perk up. And here we are, watching LSU benefit from that specific weight as it attempts to rebuild a program that lost its way under Brian Kelly. It's interesting to observe how Saban, even without being physically involved in the decisions of the search committee led by Verge Osbury, still shapes the narratives around them. His commentary during the Pat McAfee show was revealing. He spoke about the difficulty of abandoning a team before the end of the season, showing empathy for the dilemma Kiffin now faces. For Saban, finishing what he started is not just a matter of professional ethics. It's a matter of respect for the players, the program, and the game itself. This philosophy, which helped cement his legendary status, seems to have been passed on to Kiffin, who now walks a tightrope between loyalty to Ole Miss and the possibility of a new chapter at LSU. LSU urgently needs to reclaim its identity. After years of ups and downs, the program is at a critical juncture. The choice of Kiffin, a young, energetic coach with impressive offensive skills, would be seen as a clear statement of intent. He represents not only innovation, but also the promise of rekindling the passion of fans in a state that breathes American football. But, as always happens in such situations, there is more at stake than simply hiring a new coach. Kiffin's final decision will be interpreted as a reflection of the political and emotional climate within Ole Miss, as well as an indication of how successful LSU has been in selling its vision for the future. In this context, Saban's recommendation takes on even greater significance. He knows the weight of being a coach in a major Southern program, especially in states where football is much more than a sport. It's a cultural institution. Saban knows Kiffin has the right DNA to handle this pressure, having previously worked under Saban himself at Alabama. There's a familiarity there, a connection that goes beyond statistics and trophies. It's almost as if Saban is helping LSU see something others might not: Kiffin's potential to transform programs, not just teams. However, the timing of this transition is crucial. The Egg Bowl against Mississippi State, scheduled for November 28th, will be Kiffin's final stage with Ole Miss, regardless of his decision. The official announcement will come soon after, on November 29th, and until then, all speculation remains open. But one thing is certain: LSU is doing everything it can to ensure Kiffin is wearing purple and gold soon. They're betting big, $72 million, according to rumors, and hope that this, combined with Saban's indirect consulting, will be enough to convince Kiffin that Baton Rouge is the right place for him to build his next legacy. Meanwhile, Ole Miss fans wait anxiously, torn between gratitude for the exceptional work Kiffin has done in recent years and the fear of losing a coach whose impact will be felt for decades. For LSU, it's about reinvention and ambition. And a few days ago, there were already people predicting Kiffin's next moves. And these are people who were at Alabama with their opinions about him. In addition to Coach Saban, Greg McElroy's prediction, a name that carries the weight of Alabama and college football experience, adds even more fuel to the fire burning around Lane Kiffin's future. When someone with McElroy's background, former Tide quarterback and now a respected ESPN analyst, bets on LSU as Kiffin's next destination, it's hard not to listen. He's not just throwing speculation to the wind. He's connecting the dots between the talent profile available in Baton Rouge, the sports infrastructure, and the appeal of a program thirsty for renewal. And, of course, there's always that subtle touch of outside influence. To what extent might Nick Saban, his former coach, be echoing behind the scenes? McElroy mentions something crucial: LSU's ability to attract high-level talent, especially in offensive positions. Explosive wide receivers, promising quarterbacks, and a recent tradition of two Heisman Trophy winners, Joe Burrow and, more recently, Jaden Daniels, create an almost irresistible ecosystem for any ambitious offensive coach. For Kiffin, this represents not only an opportunity to continue building his reputation as a creative genius on offense, but also to prove that he can thrive in one of the country's most traditional programs, even after a period of turbulence. McElroy's comment on the recent chaos at LSU is particularly interesting. He suggests that after months of administrative instability and drastic changes in the athletic department, the pieces finally seem to be falling into place. The arrival of Verge Osberry as athletic director, along with the scouting committee led by influential figures like Scott Ballard and Ben Bordelon, demonstrates a clear attempt to rebuild the program's identity. And who better to lead this rebuilding than Kiffin, a coach known for revitalizing programs and creating new success narratives? But McElroy goes further. He highlights something that many outside observers might underestimate: the privileged access to players and unparalleled resources that LSU offers. This isn't just about money, although $72 million certainly helps, but about the ability to consistently compete at the highest level of college football. Kiffin knows this. He understands that LSU isn't just another job. It's a platform to solidify his legacy as one of the greatest offensive mentors of his generation. And perhaps it's also a chance to put his mark on a program that, despite its recent problems, remains one of the most valuable brands in college sports. The former quarterback also makes a point of highlighting Kiffin's impressive profile, something that, in his opinion, perfectly matches LSU's competitive DNA. This analysis reflects a strategic vision that goes beyond the immediacy of a coaching change. It's about style compatibility, long-term vision, and above all, the ability to generate quick results in an environment where expectations are extremely high. For LSU, hiring Kiffin would be a clear statement. They want to return to the top, and they're willing to bet big to achieve it. However, McElroy's prediction raises another intriguing question. To what extent does his own history in Alabama influence his reading of the situation? He knows Saban's ecosystem well, having been shaped by him during his years in Tuscaloosa. Is McElroy perceiving nuances in Saban's approach to Kiffin that others might not see? After all, when Saban recommends someone, it's impossible to ignore the weight of that recommendation. Whether out of personal conviction or Saban's strategic wisdom, McElroy seems confident that Kiffin will choose LSU, and that confidence doesn't come from nowhere. Meanwhile, Ole Miss watches the developments with growing anxiety. Kiffin's decision will be announced soon, and each passing day without a definitive answer amplifies the tension. The Egg Bowl against Mississippi State will be Kiffin's final chapter leading the Rebels, regardless of his choice. But for Ole Miss fans, the game already carries a melancholic tone, as if they were witnessing the end of an era that had barely begun. They saw Kiffin transform the program into a national protagonist, but now they face the possibility of losing it to an SEC rival. For LSU, McElroy's prediction is both a blessing and added pressure. And was he right? Well, maybe so. I thought I researched this article for the video before the decision. What did you imagine? Did you ever think Kiffin would be in Alabama? Funny. Comment.